Today's slides included simulated emergencies such as discontinued takeoffs and power loss after takeoff, flapless approaches, tower light signaling, and complete door-to-door video recordings for the first time. There's plenty of opportunity to practice regular circuit patterns as well. Emergency procedures are specific sets of actions that pilots and crew follow to safely handle unexpected or dangerous situations during flight. They're designed to minimize risk and ensure the safety of everyone on board. In hours 15 and 16, I practiced some of these procedures that I'll describe next. Engine failure on takeoff. In this situation, the engine fails shortly after the aircraft has taken off but hasn't gained much altitude. The standard procedure involves lowering the nose to maintain airspeed and execute a forced landing straight ahead or within 30 degrees of the nose's direction. In-flight engine failure. Here, the engine fails while the aircraft is at cruising altitude. The first step usually involves attempting to restart the engine. If that fails, the pilot looks for a suitable area to perform a forced landing. Fire on board. Fire can occur in the engine or inside the cabin. The procedures for engine fire include shutting down the engine, cutting off its fuel supply, and using onboard fire extinguishers. Pilots typically use portable fire extinguishers for cabin fires while initiating an emergency descent. Loss of electrical power. Losing electrical power can compromise navigational and communication equipment. The basic procedure here is first to check circuit breakers and then switch to backup systems or alternate methods of navigation and communication. Fuel emergency. Running low on fuel is a critical situation. The pilot must declare a fuel emergency and divert to the nearest suitable airport. Landing is executed using minimal power to conserve remaining fuel. Control surface malfunction. This occurs when the ailerons, rudder, or elevators fail. To maneuver the aircraft, the pilot must rely on secondary control techniques such as varying engine power. Pilot incapacitation. If a pilot becomes incapacitated, another qualified person may need to take control of the aircraft. Immediate landing at the nearest suitable airport is the general procedure. Icing conditions. Ice accumulating on the wings can significantly degrade performance. The initial steps involve activating the aircraft de-icing systems and changing altitude or course to exit the icing conditions. Flying in Australia's Mid-East, it's very unlikely that I will ever face this situation. Loss of cabin pressure. In the event of cabin depressurization, pilots put on an oxygen mask and initiate an emergency descent to a lower altitude where breathable air is available. Luckily, perhaps, the Cessna 172 does not have a pressurized cabin, so that's one less thing for me to worry about. Hydraulic system failure. A failure in the hydraulic systems affect control surfaces and landing gear. Manual backups or alternative procedures are initiated to land the aircraft safely. In the Cessna 172, the only hydraulic system are the brakes. All other controls are operated by cable and are not assisted by hydraulics. Again, that's one less thing to worry about. On this flight, I practiced the discontinued takeoff, engine failure after takeoff, and engine failure downwind. Let's have a look at the video starting with discontinued takeoff. A discontinued takeoff procedure is when a pilot decides to abort or cancel the takeoff process after the aircraft has already begun its roll down the runway, but before it becomes airborne. The aim is to safely bring the aircraft to a stop on the remaining runway.
Engine failure abort. So you see, just take the weight. And we just brake.
So you're applying brakes now?
As normal, just gentle, because I just want to roll up to this holding point, really.
Yep.
An engine failure after takeoff is when the aircraft's engine stops working or loses significant power right after the plane has lifted off the ground. This is a critical situation because you're low on altitude and airspeed, which limits your options.
Down.
Where are you going to go?
Probably going to go over there.
Power. Adding power. Alright, recommence the climb.
Continue.
An engine failure at downwind occurs when the engine fails while you are flying parallel to the runway but in the opposite direction of landing or taking off. This is part of the traffic pattern you typically fly around an airport. The engine could fail for various reasons, such as fuel starvation, mechanical failure, or even pilot errors like incorrect fuel mixture settings.
Charlie Bravo Charlie, glide approach.
Car 1, vacate runway 06.
Car 1's vacating runway 06.
Email shift Formula number 2, following assessor on base in your 11 o'clock on a glide now. You can start your descent. There's traffic inbound from the Oaks, so we'll be maintaining 1,800.
Lima Juliet, we're looking for traffic.
So 65 traffic on early base, a Cherokee, they're on descent in about your 10 o'clock. Join up with runway 06 and maintain 1,800.
Yeah, copy the traffic and 1,800, join up with photo 265.
That's pretty good. Gonna put
Car 1 clear 06.
lap now.
Car 1.
I do radio calls.
Juliet Bravo Charlie, clear touch and go.
Clear touch and go, Juliet Bravo Charlie.
Got it down the runway. Flap. Speed's good. Flap, full flap.
Lima Oscar uniform, base touch and go.
Lima Oscar uniform number 1.
Lima Oscar uniform.
Photo 265, you can turn cross-end when ready, you clear visual approach. And you'll be following the Cherokee on lane base.
Check up with clear visual approach and traffic photos, photo 265.
I finally solved the problem with my GoPros switching off due to overheating. The solution is to use an external battery. This removes the internal battery, leaving the battery compartment empty. By leaving the battery door open, the airflow allows for better heat exchange between the camera and the air around it. This adds to the effect that the heat sinks already have. To connect an external battery to the camera, I use a 2-meter USB-C cable. This is long enough to allow the battery to sit inside the rear passenger seat pouch without dragging down the camera. I replaced the regular GoPro battery door with a pass-through door to prevent the cable from stressing the camera's USB port. The weather today was excellent.
Camden, confirmation Charlie. Expect instrument approach. Runway 06. Wind variable 6 knots. Occasional tailwind 3 knots. Visibility greater than 10 kilometres. Showers in area. Clouds scattered 2,200. Broken 2,800. Temperature 17. QNH 1031. On first contact, Camden Tower or ground, notify receipt of Charlie. Camden, confirmation Echo. Runway 06. Wind variable 6 knots. Occasional tailwind 3 knots. Visibility greater than 10 kilometres. Clouds scattered 3,300. Broken 4,400. Temperature 19er. QNH 1029er. On first contact, Camden Tower or ground, notify receipt of Echo.
So much happened on those two flights. Let's start with power loss and glide approaches. Greg demonstrated this procedure a couple of times and then I practiced a few more. You can see my glide approaches in circuits 5 and 6 in hour 15 and circuits 3, 4 and 5 in hour 16. As you can see in the Flight Radar 24 flight path for the hour 15 flight, there are two approaches where we cut the downwind short and did a gradual turn into final, skipping base. Greg did these two. I attempted my first glide approaches in circuits 7 and 8, but they were wide, almost on the flight path of a regular circuit. I was either too high or too low in both of them and had to use power to fix the problem. Luckily the engine was working well. In hour 15, right after takeoff for circuit 3, we did a quick demo for power loss after takeoff. Of course, we didn't land in a paddock, but we set the power to idle for a few seconds and spotted a suitable patch of land to land within 30 degrees arc to the right of the flight path. You can see this at the 31st minute and 18th second in the hour 15 video. Another first was getting a green light, literally a green light from tower. Greg asked the controller to turn on the green light to provide visual permission to land when the radio is inoperative. I was actually expecting a gigantic beacon, something like a lighthouse, but instead it was more like a flashlight. It literally is a flashlight that the controller holds next to the window or on the tower. Still, it is easy to see if you know what to look for and where. The camera wasn't able to capture the light because it's so tiny, but you can hear Greg making the request.
Okay, 70 knots.
So you saw the light's not particularly big?
You can barely see it actually.
Yeah.
Probably visible at night, but you have to look for it.
Alright, come on, let's make this a good one now.
A notable moment in hour 15 happened on landing for circuit 8. I pushed the yoke forward momentarily, causing the plane to pitch down. Aside from the obvious risk that this control input introduced, when Greg said that I should never push the nose forward like that, I did not remember actually giving this input to the plane. I suspected a tailwind had done it. I wanted to check the video recording to find out what truly had happened, and the evidence was clear. It was my error. It was human error.
Alright.
There you go.
Okay, 60 knots, rotate. I don't remember actually pushing forward.
You did, you lowered the nose.
I noticed that, yeah. Could that be a tailwind at that point? Or?
Doubt it. Not the way the nose angle changed.
We'll check the video evidence.
We'll go to the video on that one.
Yeah.
Today was my best day of flying so far. I did feel more in control of the plane, even though I started the day a bit rusty. I felt more confident knowing what I was doing, and in the last few circuits I was quick to correct any deviations in altitude and speed. I truly enjoyed learning the new emergency skills. Today was filled with new learning from the get-go, like the discontinued takeoff. There was one particular moment I noted in my mind. There was one particular moment I noted in my mind to check in the video with the plane tipped forward during a landing. I thought it was a tailwind to blame. However, checking the video evidence later showed that it was me, not the wind. So after going around, if not correctly established to land, I have a new permanent ingrained behavior. Never push forward over the runway. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Just click on the subscribe button below this video. And of course, you can also head over to my detailed flight training log pages on the Tech Explorations website. In these pages, I document in detail all of my experiences and learnings from each one of my training flights. These logs contain a goldmine of information for any aviation student or anyone interested in aviation. Until next time, I wish you clear skies and safe landings.